meeting is being conducted tonight in hybrid style, and welcome to all of you that are here in person and all of you that are joining us online through either our Facebook page or our webcast page through our website. The streams and recordings of this meeting are copyrighted and should not be altered, reproduced, republished in any way without the written permission of Council. I'd just like to quickly remind the attendees here in person and online that any member of public addressing Council should extend due courtesy and respect to Council and our processes under which we operate here this evening. Please take direction from me as your chair whenever called on to do so. And speakers, please be respectful and make sure that your statements or questions should not be defamatory, offensive, or aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of Council staff. Or please make sure any questions or comments you make this evening are in relation to an item within the powers of Council. Councillors, welcome to the meeting this evening. There's no apologies being received for item 1, so I'll move to item 2, which is declaration of conflicts of interest. Would anyone like to declare a conflict of interest? Just make a general reminder that I remind you, councillors, that tonight's meeting is strictly for the purposes of hearing submissions from the public. It's not for discussion, debating or deciding the budget itself, and we do not wish to prejudice any council decisions on the council plan or the council budget. So whilst councillors, please feel free to ask clarifying questions of myself as chair or questions directly through the chair to members of the public presenting here this evening, but please don't enter into any debate per se, as you're duly aware that conflict of interest provisions will apply and councillors will need to consider any potential conflict and whether or not they need to remove themselves from the meeting. If a conflict of interest does arise, councillors, please feel free just to bring it up at the time. You don't always have full knowledge of what's going to be presented at these meetings, and if something does come up, please feel free to bring it up at any point in time. Item 3. It's not labelled, that's all. So let's move now to item 3, which is public comment on agenda items. We have one item for consideration at this evening's meeting, councillors, and that's to hear the submissions from the members of the public on the Council Plan 2021 to 2031, Year 2 and budget for year 2022 and 2023. We've got a large number of speakers here this evening, and I'll ask each presenter to limit their speech, or their comments rather, to 2 minutes each. I'll be pretty liberal with the time though this evening, and I would ask you obviously to, if possible, avoid repeating points that have been made if speakers have made them before you this evening. All right, let's get straight into it. So I call upon Simon Strickland. Simon, welcome. If you could just state your name and your suburb, and your 2 minutes starts when you do. Thanks, Simon.
Oh, switch it on. That's always helpful, isn't it?
You've got such a loud voice, I didn't even hear the difference, Frank.
So I just wanted to...
Could you repeat all of that?
Pardon?
Could you repeat that for me, just so the people online and the public record can make sure that your quality comments get recorded in the history of the...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will do so. Welcome again. Thank you for listening to me again, councillors. So I just wanted to thank the council for including in their budget a line item for... Albert Park Bowls Club Pavilion upgrade, which is around female facilities upgrade for our club. I sent you all a little package. You'll see our membership has grown quite spectacularly over the last few years, and we have done remarkably well through the COVID time, where we've got, at the end of March, we had 201 members. Way, we broke 200. Yay, that was fantastic. About half of those are female, so it's really important that this upgrade goes ahead. You've got some money spent next year, and then the year after. Most of the actual work will be done in 2023. which is our sesquicentennial year. Hurrah! We've been around for 150 years. I've given you a couple of slides that show the current facilities, the proposed changes that the Council is going to fund, and those are in the package that I sent you all, and thank you very much for saying that you got them. That's really helpful to know. One of the things that happens as a consequence of these changes is that our office gets moved from between the ladies' locker room and the ladies' toilets to a different place, and it gets to be quite small. So we have a phase 2 plan, which we're using the same architect as drew up the ones that Council is going to fund, where we move our office and make a reasonably sized office and do something to the men's facilities that were built in 1957 and haven't been touched since. We're looking to put in 2 stalls where we only have one at the moment. It's very inconvenient when both of us want to go at once. And an ambulance toilet. We're going to talk to Martin Foley on the 15th of July around getting some state funding for that, we hope. So we'd like to do those projects concurrently so that there's only one construction process involved during that time, and we'll be working with the council officers to try and make that all happen at once.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us tonight, Simon. We appreciate it. I now call upon Tim Barnett.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. Welcome. If you could just state your name and your suburb, and your 2 minutes starts when you do.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors. I'm Tim Barnett in St Kilda. I'm based with a company called E-Tainment Productions. We are also based at the Alex Theatre. Obviously, during the last 2 years, the Alex Theatre has basically closed its doors and hadn't been able to reopen. So in that time, we've taken on and invested over $250,000 in television equipment and sound equipment, etc., to actually produce programming for the arts and other things out of the Alex Theatre. The proposal we've put in, or a request for funding assistance, is to assist us getting a program that we have been producing and working with as a pilot program for the last 2 years, basically, or 2 seasons. It's a live variety show, but it actually is using local artists and entertainers, as well as famous people who do come in as guests. And we set it up and called it Live from St Kilda. It's hosted by Ben Murphy, who's very well known in America and China, not that well known here, but he's done most of his stuff overseas. And of course, he's in lockdown like everybody else, so he couldn't travel. Anyway, we all committed to putting this show together as a pilot program to establish getting St Kilda out there, hence the name Live from St Kilda. We bring in guests. To date, we've had close to 50 guests and entertainers come in and do shows with us. We've done 24 shows. First season was 13 half-hour shows. They go out on community television, Channel 31 here, Channel 44 in Adelaide. Foxtel has just picked up the show, so that'll be now available on Foxtel as of last Friday, I believe. I'm not sure what time slot yet. And basically, we're getting a reach out there of over 20 to 30,000 people a week. Showcasing entertainment out of St Kilda, showcasing the arts, showcasing just interviews with people out of the industry. They're not necessarily all performers. They are also people behind the scenes. They can be artists of any type. The reason we're doing that is because we're trying to highlight St Kilda as a centre of the arts in Melbourne and taking it to the world. At the moment, we have been doing the whole thing with volunteers. Everything has been volunteered, including equipment, the Alex Theatre, all the crews,
thanks, Tim.
Who we are trained.
Hey, Tim, can we get you to come to the end if that's okay?
Yep, sure.
Cheers, thanks, mate.
So basically, that's what we're up to, is to establish an infrastructure for entertainment and streaming in St Kilda. Thank you.
No, thank you for joining us this evening. I now call upon Dave Demmer. Dave, welcome. Just get you to state your name and your suburb. Terrific.
Dr. Dave Demmer, St Kilda. I'm a clinical psychologist and the founder of Wellington Street Psychology, that is Melbourne's leading private psychology practice for the queer community and is located here in the suburb of St Kilda. I'm also a member of the City of Port Phillip's LGBTQIP+ Advisory Committee to Council, and I'm here to kind of set the scene for our submission. I want to start by addressing you on some of the difficulties that the queer community have. So LGBTQIP+ Victorians experience a multitude of difficulties. Over 1/3 have faced social exclusion. Over half of people who are gender and sexually diverse have experienced discrimination based on their differences. And a quarter of young LGBTQIP+ people have experienced homelessness at some point. Queer people are 6 times more likely to experience negative mental health, and they're also 13 times more likely to attempt to take their own life. These issues are something that you as a council have said no more to in establishing our advisory committee. Under our terms of reference, the committee's purpose is to provide advice to council on matters that affect LGBTQIP+ residents, businesses and visitors to the city, with one of our key objectives being to guide the development and implementation of the City of Port Phillip's LGBTQIP+ advisory action plan. We've been developing our guiding principles for the action plan, focusing on justice, inclusion, celebration, and ensuring our advice is informed by the real lives of our community and is also directed towards creating positive and lasting change for our rainbow community. We've also been developing our strategic directions for the action plan. We look forward to delivering a draft plan to Council on the 17th of August of this year for endorsement and community consultation, and a final action plan to Council on the 6th of December this year that really underpins and will support the Council's overarching 21 to 31 strategic plan. We're looking at building the capacity, inclusiveness and accessibility of our rainbow community here in our city, and this work can ensure that the rainbow community is inherently considered in every part of council operations, and we have more speakers to come.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Dave. I appreciate it. Now call upon Justine Della Riva. Justine, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. I'm Justine Della Riva. I'm the CEO of the Victorian Pride Centre and a resident in the north, but enjoying my time here in the south, which I'm more here than I am in the north these days. The Victorian Pride Centre is Australia's first purpose-built LGBTI community hub. Its purpose is to connect, support and amplify LGBTIQ+ voices, resources, services and groups so that our communities are more cohesive, resilient and thrive. I am also a member of the City of Port Phillip's LGBTIQA+ Advisory Committee. The Council's 2021 to 31 strategic plan sets out 5 strategic directions to deliver on inclusive, livable, sustainable, vibrant and well-governed city. One of our key strategic directions of the city is to create an inclusive Port Phillip. The committee commends the council for this goal and suggests that fundamental to creating an inclusive city is the inclusion and recognition of the diverse experiences of the LGBTIQ+A communities. It is important to understand that such experiences are not all the same. In the committee's view, intersectionality is key to understanding the diverse experiences of people and identities in the city's rainbow communities. We are not one homogenous group. It involves recognising that this can create different layers and types of discrimination for individuals or groups, as well as being diverse in their sexuality, gender identity or sex characteristics. LGBTIQ+ people are diverse in other ways. This might include their Aboriginality, ethnicity, skin colour, nationality, refugee or asylum seeker background, migration or visa status, language, faith, ability, age, mental health or housing status. The importance of intersectionality was recognised in Victoria's LGBTIQ+ strategy for 2022 to 32, released in February of this year. It was also in the state government's Rainbow Ready Roadmap for local government recently issued in May. As the Rainbow Ready Roadmap suggests, achieving equality will require the Victorian community to come together. Local councils across Victoria have a key part to play in achieving equality, and this is because it is a local government who is best placed to make decisions about the local area, to deliver a diversity of activities and services, and to know and understand its communities. Local government is a place shaper.
Thanks, Justine. If we get to come to the end, that'd be great.
You know your community, and you are best placed to be able to meet the needs of your citizens and drive change. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon Liam McAuliffe. Liam, welcome. Let's get you to repeat your name and state your suburb, please.
Thank you. My name is Liam McAuliffe. I'm a resident here in the city of Port Phillip, living in Balaclava. I'm a barrister by day and chair of the LGBTIQA+ Advisory Committee. My fellow committee members have spoken to you about the poorer health outcomes faced by our queer communities, the role and purpose of the Advisory Committee, our current work, drafting an action plan, the importance of the Council in recognising and including our voices, and the commitment to an inclusive Port Phillip. And in particular, and I know I'm speaking to an audience here, but the key role of local government in creating a safer and more inclusive community. It's why we exist. It's why you exist. It's why we're here. Our submission to you outlined 7 recommendations that we suggest Council might adopt in the short term. Now, these recommendations, drawing upon what we've spoken about, focus on consulting with local rainbow communities, ensuring training of key leadership, senior leadership team here in the Council to promote a top-down cultural change, and in alignment with an explicit indicator in the state government's Rainbow Ready roadmap for local government, commencing a program working towards all gender bathroom and training and change room facilities, like, for example, might be at a bowls club. This also includes strengthening and supporting queer and rainbow businesses, including reviewing procurement policies and looking at small grants programs for our communities, focusing on, in particular, enjoying, celebrating our Rainbow Days of Significance. And finally, our final recommendation looks at repainting the Rainbow Road on Jackson Street. In our view, in the committee's view, these actions are key to laying the groundwork on which the action plan, the final action plan, can be built. We support, furthermore, Council in creating and affirming a culturally safe workplace for your staff and employees. Our next steps are to create real, quantifiable and impactful plans and change for our community. The LGBTIQA+ community must be seen, counted, understood and celebrated to be supported to live and thrive here in our city. Together, drawing upon our recommendations, it's our view that this provides the vision and the pathway for which long-term and systemic change can be made to celebrate and improve our communities. Thank you.
Thanks, Liam. And I just want to acknowledge Dave, Justine and Liam. Thank you for your service to the Advisory Committee. We very much appreciate it, and thank you again for coming this evening. I call upon Georgina Salidis, please. Georgina, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Professor Georgina Salidis and I'm the chair of the Multicultural Advisory Committee. And I'm here to speak to our submission, which was about 8 points, but we were asked to distill it down to 3 priorities, which we've done. I'd like to begin by saying that the City of Port Phillip is actually a very diverse community. 1 in 3 residents was born overseas. More than half of our residents have a parent born overseas. Over 20% speak a language other than English, and 163 languages are spoken within our community. Being home to migrants, refugees and asylum seekers is part of the character of our city. The Multicultural Advisory Committee provides advice to Council on related matters through the expertise, experience and networks of its diverse membership. The position I put forward is based on thoughtful consideration by the committee and reflects our action plan, which is framed by Council policy and the Welcoming Cities framework. We believe that diversity is a strength and needs to be supported and celebrated. All forms of diversity need to be considered and the connections between them recognised and developed. And I take heart by the support of other committees here for the notion of intersectionality. We also believe that successful social cohesion requires ongoing investment. The MAC has put forward a range of issues for consideration. Firstly, we believe strongly that overall allocation to the diversity portfolio needs to be strengthened. The funding is limited and does not reflect the makeup nor needs of our community. My colleague, the Deputy Chair Helen Camoon, will provide further details on this point. Secondly, we believe that the City of Port Phillip needs to develop a consistent and ongoing communication strategy that highlights the strengths of cultural diversity. This could include an ongoing feature on the council website, dedicated funding for the development of short videos, enhancing the council pages on multicultural communities. Currently, support is piecemeal and therefore doesn't allow for a positive narrative to be developed about our diverse community. Such a narrative is a proactive way of supporting social cohesion. It makes everybody feel they are valued members of our community and makes public experiences that foster further understanding. Thirdly, MAC is concerned with older residents from ethnic minority backgrounds. The lockdowns have illustrated the vulnerability of this group. We believe that integrating the needs of CALD, that is ethnic minority seniors, into the positive ageing strategy needs further investment. Ongoing attention to the...
Just get you to come to the end, if you could, please.
Yep.
Just get you to come to the end.
Digital literacy, the support for the women's circles at the Park Tower, etc. We thank the Council for the opportunity to contribute to what's an important deliberation. Thank you.
No, thank you. I might read Helen's submission out, given it's on the same topic, so it's sequential, councillors, if that's okay. So this submission is from Helen Carmoon, who's obviously Deputy President that we're talking about, Deputy Chair rather, of the committee we were referring to before, and she submitted a question to Council. So regarding the Multicultural Advisory Committee budget submission, my name is Helen Carmoon and I'm currently Deputy Chair of the MAC. As a dual citizen flying to France to reconnect with my family after 2 years of COVID disruption, I would like to talk to the priority 1 of our budget, an increase to the grant available to support the work of our position. We ask that COPP aligns the current funding towards programs supporting cultural inclusion with the makeup of our city. Currently, in our community, 51.8% have at least one parent who was born overseas, and 20.6% of the City of Port Phillip residents speak a language other than English at home. We note that only 8.6% of the inclusive portfolio budget, $3.26 million out of $41 million, is spent on community programs and facilities, despite this program's potential benefit of between 30 to 50% of residents. We also note that many of the current programs that aim to support the cultural diversity rely on soft money rather than attract a predictable annual financial allocation from Council. We would like the budget to take into account consideration of the percentage of residents that can benefit from a developed and sustainable program supporting multiculturalism and align with funding allocated to ensure Port Phillip stays an inclusive and welcoming city. Thank you. And thank you also for the service that you give to the city through your chairing of the committee. We very much appreciate it, and thank you for coming this evening. My pleasure. I now call upon David Marlowe from the St Kilda Hebrew congregation. Welcome, David, and just get you to state your name and your suburb.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. David Marlowe. I'm representing the St Kilda Hebrew congregation based in St Kilda, and I live in Elwood, so I'm halfway home. Thank you very much for accepting our submission. We're keen to repair, renovate and make good our bathrooms. We've got 9 bathrooms in total. 6 of them haven't had any work for nearly 100 years, or at least not much work. We've got ceilings that have been affected by rainwater. I've had the plumbers in again today, but we want to be able to do a major refit of these bathrooms. We've got 1,500 members, largely based around the City of Port Phillip, but we also have a very broad inclusion and outreach program where we have every Sunday we have groups of kids with disabilities attend events through the Friendship Circle. We've got Jimbaroo 3 days a week where we have kids of all different faiths and no faiths come and attend in our main hall. We've got kids and families attend services mainly on Friday night and Saturday morning. And we have a lot of school groups. I think the last 2 months we've had about 25 school groups come through, mainly through via the Jewish Museums program. And we like to have bathrooms that are suitable for everybody to be able to use from whatever community they're coming from. And our members will be contributing a large part of the money for a variety of capital expenditures we have to do at the moment, because when you manage an old building, I like to think of the St Kilda Synagogue as one of the grand ladies of St Kilda, along with the town hall and probably the post office. And we just got to keep it looking good and in good condition.
Thanks for joining us this evening, John. We very much appreciate it, and thanks for the service to the community. I now call upon John Kirby. John hasn't made us this evening. I'll come back to that. Eric Palais, I call upon you from the Port Melbourne Baseball Club.
Sorry.
Don't apologise. You've done nothing wrong. Thanks for joining us this evening. Just get you to state your name and your suburb. That'd be fantastic.
Sure. So Eric Palais. I live in Port Melbourne. Promise, not in the US, although I've got the accent still. Thanks for having me. I only heard I was going to talk about an hour ago, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. Port Melbourne Baseball Club is one of the fastest growing clubs around the area. We now have about 11 teams within the state, puts us within the top 5. We are participating with some of the local schools, about 6 of them now, and yet our facilities, our lack of lights, and our dangerous grounds, put us in harm's way day in and day out. I'm speaking to you not only as a member of the board, but also of a parent with a son that was injured on that field. And he's now lost his opportunity to play representative ball for the state of Victoria. We put 5 junior teams out there, 5 men's teams. We have a women's team, and for the first time in our history, also a masters team. But we all know it gets dark early, and without lights, we are the only field without lights on that entire Murphy Reserve. We only have about 17 minutes of training time each evening, which is obviously impossible when you talk about that number of members that are participating as a part of the club. The board's been kind enough to budget both facilities, so grounds improvements as well as lighting, over the next couple of years, but we're essentially begging the board to reconsider and put those into the next fiscal year. Reason for that is, in order for to enable us to provide better training and additional hours for each one of those teams, we need those lights, right? I mean, 17 minutes is never going to cut it. And so we'd like to see those move from, a future fiscal year, I believe it's 24 maybe, into the upcoming fiscal year. So let's design and build. That will allow us to extend our program out to those 6 schools. We hosted the T-ball gala, 650 kids on our fields just a couple of weeks ago. But again, in order to do all of that, we've got to get that field up to par, and we've got to get those lights out.
No, thank you. I appreciate that, Eric. Do you have any lights there currently at all? There's no lights there.
No, there are. So we are actually the only field on that entire reserve without lights. We also happen to be the only field that's used 12 months out of the year. So we are a winter and a summer season. Our winter season still has 7 teams, and our as I mentioned, our summer season last year had 10 teams. We'll likely go to 11 or even 12, which will put us in the top 3 programs in the state. I realize it's baseball and a secondary sport, although certainly the passion.
No such thing as a secondary sport in this city.
What's that?
No such thing as a secondary sport.
No, I know. I'm kidding a bit, but look, you came out and saw the field,
Peter Martin.
and heard Kelly, Thomas, who's from Baseball Victoria's, it's probably the worst field that we've got in the city.
All right. And if you get it's budgeted, but if you get the uplift, the enhancement rather to the what do I call it, the pitch? Is that the right terminology? The
field,
inner square, the field, right?
Call it a pitch.
Is it basically the usage of the ground, the capacity of the ground in terms of what the ground can handle? Not unlimited, but is it can it be substantially uplifted? Could you double the usage of the field? Or is it
with the lights as well, or just the field?
Assume you had the lights, for example.
So with the lights as well, it will provide us an extra 16 training sessions pre-season, that's per week, an extra 7 training sessions per week during season. That's in the summer alone. In the winter, obviously, that's significantly higher. Equates to about 182 training sessions during the winter season that we'll be able to add because we can't right now, right? I mean, it's dark by 5:17.
And the ground will be able to handle that as well.
I'm sorry?
The grass on the ground, the outfield will be able to handle that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
and we've met with Sport ENG, I think that's how you pronounce it, who came as consultants. That was really appreciated recommendation of the council, as well as some of the council members. So, yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you coming here this evening. And thanks for answering my interrogation.
So have a great weekend or week.
One of those funny weeks. I call upon Catherine Wilson. Hey, Catherine, welcome.
Hi.
Just get you to state your name and your suburb. That would be great.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm Catherine Wilson and I'm in St Kilda, but I'm also in the St Kilda Balaclava area of St Kilda. I actually sent through a PowerPoint. There's just two slides on it. It'd be useful if you had those open. My focus is on the budget proposed projects for my neighbourhood, Balaclava, St Kilda area, and the lack of equity in projects compared to the other areas in St Kilda, in Port Phillip. Firstly, I'd like to highlight the following features of St Kilda, taking from the 2016 census and compare these with Albert Park, Middle Park. So if you have that first slide open.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. As you can notice, Balaclava St Kilda has 16% of the Port Phillip population, whereas Albert Park has 11%. Now you'll notice that there's a very high difference between the number of people that live in high-rise apartments and also the density in Balaclava St Kilda compared to Albert Park. And even starker is the public open space that is available to the local residents compared to Albert Park. I'd just like to make a little comment about the high density living. A lot of apartments in this area were built in the mid-1900s or early 1900s, and a lot of them actually don't have any balconies and they don't have any open space provisions. So they're at a real disadvantage. Now, if you look at the draft budget, and if you go to the second slide, we're comparing probably what is the poorest area in Port Phillip with the most wealthy, that is Albert Park. If you look at the Balaclava St Kilda area, you'll notice that the current proposal is $15.1 million, which is the lowest of any area within Port Phillip. Now, you need to exclude a couple of things there because in the initial budget papers, because there are 2 projects that are actually outside the area, and then there's a couple of projects that are also completed. So that takes you to 15.1.
Catherine, just get you to come to the end if you could. We've got the slide up in front of you, so...
Okay. And then you compare it with what's proposed for Albert Park, and I don't think that is equitable. I think that the residents and ratepayers of St Kilda Balaclava deserve the same level of open space and project investment as other areas.
So just to summarise here, if I can surmise this, you're illustrating on the analysis based on completed projects that net Balaclava's getting 4.8 million versus Albert Park, Middle Park at 25.1.
Yep.
Even though the density per square kilometre, Balaclava's 7,000 versus less than 4,000 thereabouts.
Okay. So I actually say that the draft project plan should be totally redone, and there should be consultation with the community.
Can I ask a quick question? Is there any specific projects that you've highlighted that you'd like to come to the top of the pile?
Well, you'll see me tomorrow night because I'm talking about the petition related to Duke Street, just through past the library. So that's one project that would be really great to get up. And my very last comment is about the amenity in the area. It's shabby, and it needs, and you compare it to pristine Middle Park, Albert Park, it's just not good enough. There's litter, there's weeds, there's dump rubbish, all those things.
Thank you for coming, Catherine. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Thank you.
I call upon Peter Moratis from Pecan. Peter, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I didn't bring my glasses tonight, so I'm struggling. I'd like to draw your attention to I wanted to speak to an element of the Pecan submission, and I'd like to draw your attention to the summary of the sustainability operational spend in Volume 2, page 67 of the budget papers. I'm not speaking about the overall sustainability budget or even the sustainability capital budget. I'm just speaking about the sustainability operational budget. The sustainability operational budget is the part of the sustainability budget where such expenditure as the Enviro Leaders course, expenditure on the development of the Climate Emergency Plan, the Business Advisory Service to reduce business greenhouse emissions, communication about council sustainability actions, including signage, videos and other forms of sustainability public education, the Marine and Coastal Management Plan, the Coastal Adaptation Plan and Council's work on community battery development through the Inner Melbourne Partnership all presumably sit. So they all sit in this operational plan. It's a small but crucial part of council expenditure on sustainability, having outsized impact. It is also part of the budget we would expect to grow over the next few years, post both the declaration of climate emergency and the council's decision to develop and implement a climate emergency plan. But the budget figures seem to tell a different story. So the forward estimate under the service category sustainability operational indicates a regressive drop over 3 years from 6,157,000 to 3,816,000 by 25-26, a cut of 36%. We understand that something like 1.7 million will be spent on replacing existing street lighting, with carbon reducing street lighting, a good thing, but notwithstanding this expenditure, the budget still projects a reduction in sustainability operational expenditure. As the climate crisis worsen, we believe expenditure should be increased rather than cut. Further, if there is a rate freeze, as sub-councillors are proposing, it is possible this essential community good will be further cut.
Thanks, Peter. Can you come to the end if you could?
Yep. Our request is that sustainability operational expenditure be projected to increase, not projected to be cut, in order to maintain existing operational expenditure and to incorporate necessary additional expenditure to implement the Climate Emergency Action Plan. Thank you again for having the opportunity to speak.
No, thanks for coming tonight, Peter. We greatly appreciate it. I now call upon Igor Vayner from the Carlisle Street Traders. Carlisle Street Traders Association or Carlisle Street Traders?
Association, yes.
Ah, there we go. I
Yes,
should
it's
put
all
that word in
now.
there for you.
Good evening, Mr Mayor, councillors. My name is Eagle Vayner from Vayner Optical in Carlisle Street. I'm the president of the Carlisle Street Traders Association that was established as an incorporated body in last August of last year, and also a business advisory committee. I'm requesting a budget allocation of $100,000 in 2022 to 23 to establish a marketing and business development program for the street that will provide direct benefit to the businesses. The program will include the employment of part-time centre coordinators who will organise street competitions, vouchers, 2 promotional events and business network sessions designed to lift the profile of the street and increase the business sales. The association that has a 2-year plan is working to raise $40,000 in grants and sponsorship to complement the council's funding. I think we all agree that Carlisle Street needs support. It has been left behind. There are over 25 vacancies. Many businesses have suffered as a result of COVID, ongoing staff shortages and no foot traffic. We see the council allocation of $100,000 as a short-term investment in the street to achieve a long-term gain. We want to use this seed funding to gain support for a 5-year special rate program to raise up to $200,000 per annum, paid by the businesses and the property owners. It will be like the successful programs operating in Port Melbourne, Fitzroy Street and Eklund Street. We will use some of the funds from the special rates to contribute to project funds by the council, such as the filling of the vacant shops. It will take 12 months to put our special rate fund into place. To get a successful outcome, we need council's funding of $100,000 for next year. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Just wondering if you can give us a bit of feedback on how the traders are taking to the Traders Association. What's the general feedback?
All traders got their receptors open. They're all interested, but have had relatively negative experiences in the past. So everyone's got the ear down and listening to what is about to happen. I think if we were to show that we can support and show a good cause of what we can do as an association, we have got a very good way of having this special levy to support ourselves and improve the whole Carlisle Street.
Thanks for everything you're doing. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming this evening.
Thank
Just
you.
one final call for John Kirby. No, councillors, we'll take a break for 10 minutes if that's okay and reconvene at 7:35 just to iron out some technical issues with the WebEx before we can bring the virtual people on. If you're joining us online, we'll see you again here at 7:35. Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Yep, got you as well. Just state your name and your suburb and please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I just had to get my bit of paper.
No worries at all.
So it's, I hope it was Pam O'Neill you were looking for, was it?
Absolutely. Welcome.
I was in the other room cooking dinner, trying to cook dinner at the same
That's
time.
all right. I can smell it from
Pam
here.
O'Neill and Pam O'Neill of St Kilda, and I'm speaking as president of the Eco Centre on behalf of April Seymour, who signed the application, the submission we put in. First, I'd like to say this: the Port Phillip Eco Centre is proud of our strong, productive partnership between the City of Port Phillip and our organisation. We're grateful for the financial and other support we've received from Council since our inception 23 years ago. And more than anything, we're thrilled and for the commencement of the redevelopment of the World Leadership Rated Sustainable New Eco Centre, which is jointly funded by the City of Port Phillip and Victorian Government. It will create an Eco Centre hub to better equip our team, volunteers and networks to scale up the community leadership for climate, health and economic challenges ahead. which we know are many. Mitigation, preparedness for and response...
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. Yeah, got you as well. Just say your name and your suburb and please go ahead.
Mitigation,
not sure what's going on there, Pam.
Response for climate change and extreme weather are public benefits to all who live, work and play in Port Phillip. Council's investment in sustainability initiatives is valid and value and must continue in these times of climate emergency. So we commend the recognition of the climate emergency that Council has done and the investment in updating a range of plans and strategies to monitor and mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change and extreme weather, and in the development of a climate emergency action plan. However, we do note that references to biodiversity are missing and request that one or more of the above plans incorporate indicators and targets relating to native plants and animals. The second point I'd like to make is about the integration of the climate emergency into financial challenges and emergency management. With increasing floods, heat waves, eroding beaches and other climate-related stressors in our city by the sea, preparedness for communities and services, maintaining infrastructure and emergency response will require both ongoing and responsive expenditure. We'd like to know under which strategic direction or service is extreme weather literacy and preparedness funded. How are climate and extreme weather factored into municipal emergency management budget, which has no capital allocation and modest operational rises of about 2% on each budget on each year.
Thanks, Pam. Get you to come to the end of your comments, if you could.
The last point I want to make is we're just concerned about the fact that in the budget, in the forward estimates of the budget, under the operational section of the sustainability services part of budget, we note that over the next 3 years there's a minus 38% allocated in the forward estimates for this area of sustainability action. This is very, very worrying to us in the concern that it is in the times of climate emergency and with Council saying that they're going to develop a climate action plan and that we need to do it.
Thanks, Pam.
All right, thank you very much.
No, thanks for joining us. I now call upon Gina Fisk. Hi, Gina.
Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear me. Thanks. I've had trouble getting in.
No worries at all. Welcome. Just get you to state your name and your suburb and please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Gina Fisk. I'm from Elwood and I'm currently the chair of the Port Phillip Community Group. I'd like to thank the Mayor and Councillors in particular for their opportunity to give feedback on the plan and to acknowledge the work that we've been doing in partnership for the last 2 years with Council. On behalf of the board, which is a very active board of local residents on the Port Phillip Community Group, if you don't mind if I use PPCG, we recognise that partnership has led to enormous benefits, particularly for people affected by COVID, and also we welcome Council's continued investment in local community services detailed in the draft plan. And we'd like to acknowledge the enormous contribution of the whole community, led by Council and PPCG, our executive officer and staff, and many volunteers who have put their hands up and given time and resources over the last 2 years. Importantly, the draft plan gives a very strong commitment to social justice and equity, and we see that that is important for the rights of all people to have a fair and equitable participation in our community. The community vision in the plan reinforces the voice of the community, we think, and Council's role of working together collaboratively. Our vision is also to have a fair and just and inclusive community, and so we see the two align very closely about being inclusive and enacting that within our programs. Okay, so after the last 2 years, our board has had to reach very deep and dig deep to reach out to people in need, many people who we've not seen before and who have faced very difficult times in the last 2 years. But we believe that by working together with Council, and has been a very active, planned and demonstrated partnership, that we have been able to a large extent, reduce the barriers faced by people who have been disadvantaged and do that through minimising the impact and creating much better access to our services across the whole of Port Phillip. So the unforeseen pandemic consequences for people and individuals and families brought definitely new challenges to us. And we can see that impact still in the community, and we think it will, we don't know how long that will last, but we think the financial stresses, the housing pressures and escalating costs of living have really had a great deal of disruption to family life, schooling, to healthcare for many particular groups, young people, homeless people, single parents. And we have seen a number of people come to our service who have not really accessed those services before, who we would not normally expect to see. So that's a very telling sign. I just
Gina.
wanted to highlight...
If you could just come to the end, that would be great, Gina.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then. I just really wanted to highlight the success of the Share the Food program and the investment by Council. And that enabled us to see 20,000 individuals and families over the last year, which has been extraordinary, and reaching out. And we also want to note that and thank Council for their allocation of the $608,000 as a core grant in 22-23, so that we can continue our support for local people and really adhere to the vision of people valuing and living in a vibrant, diverse and cohesive community. And we look forward to celebrating our 50th year anniversary with Council as strong partners and the community next year. Thank you very much.
And thank you to you and your committee for your service to our community, Gina. We much appreciate it. I call upon Anne Michaels from the Clarendon and Coventry Street Business Association. Anne, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Just before you start, I've got you down for 2 items this evening, so we'll do one and then the other if that's okay, just to avoid any technical issues, because being able to throw back to you later on I think is going to be a bit tricky. So if you could deal with the first one first, that would be great, Anne. Your 2 minutes starts when you do, and then we'll start again.
Sorry, Mayor, would you like me to do the Clarendon Coventry one first?
Anyone you wish to, but please feel free to go ahead.
Okay, I'll start with good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name's Anne Michaels and I'm the Chair of the Prosperous Port Phillip Business Advisory Group, more commonly known as the BAG. So I'm speaking tonight about business activation throughout our municipality, and just comment that the BAG's been operating for around 2 years now, and together with Council we are feeling more confident that we're starting to make a difference. It's very well recognised that all of our businesses have suffered through the COVID pandemic, and we're only just starting to get back on our feet, and we're facing more challenges such as labour shortages, price rises and other obstacles. But the support provided by Council so far has been welcomed by all of our businesses, and more so, I guess, the commitment that's being extended to the business community is very much appreciated. And we welcome the funds that have been nominated in the budget in the 7 areas, being the tourism campaign, the Reimagine competition, Love My Grants, Renew Fitzroy, the winter program, South Melbourne Evening Economy, and the retail vacancy intervention in Carlisle Street. But we do want to comment that we do need your continued support. We can't do it on our own, and these events and targets that we've got for this financial year are a start, but we need support to continue. The ones that we've identified as being very important are the activity centre activations, and we comment that there are a couple that are being held this year, and we'd like to see that extended to other areas in the municipality in the following year. The public space activation, the Reimagine design competitions were brilliant. We would like to see, as the BAG, we'd like to see those becoming more permanent installations, so we have better use and allocation of those funds rather than being temporary. They're beautiful activated sculptures, etc., which should be enjoyed on a longer-term basis. The lighting projects, we have a couple we believe are coming forth in the next coming year, and if they work as well as we hope in terms of activation and safety for the community, we really encourage those to be extended to some of the other areas within our municipality other than the ones that are getting them. The other area we think is really important and we don't leverage off is the Australian Grand Prix. The Grand Prix has been in our city for over 20 years. I guess we've been hosting, but we feel that although we host, we put people on trams and get them out as fast as possible, and the City of Melbourne ends up benefiting from that tourism event. So we think we would benefit, and we'd like to work together with the, I guess, the Grand Prix Committee and the City of Port Phillip on how we can better leverage from that tourism into our, I guess, into COPP.
Great.
And lastly,
can you come to the end of this section if you could put for me, Anne?
Yeah, I am. thank you to supporting the establishment of 3 business associations last year. We really appreciate it. It was Carlisle, Ormond and Clarendon, Coventry. The association's now up and running, and we really need your support to continue that and fully establish them so they can eventually, in the short term, stand on their own feet. So our high streets and our businesses welcome the support so far, and we look forward to your continued support to create a vibrant community.
Okay, now I'll get you to continue talking about the Clarendon and Coventry Streets Business Association.
Okay, I am the president of this association, and we established December last year. Very grateful to the support by the City of Port Phillip, particularly during the COVID period. It was set up with the help of Peter McNabb, who's Main Street consultant, and we also have the assistance of the Marmalade Sky Marketing, which is an experienced strip shopping marketing group. But we wanted to, celebrate our successes so far. We've got a business plan. We have 14 active committee members, which is quite high and very encouraging. An extensive database. We've got a new logo and branding called Experience South Melbourne. And then we have other assets. We've created a website. We have social media, both Instagram and Facebook. We had an activation event during Easter, and we've got all sorts of marketing collateral. We need your further support. We can't do it on our own. We have members that are enthused and encouraged, but they need to see runs on the board to feel that commitment. We have a few ideas going forth, which is a roving night market in Clarendon and Coventry Streets, basically running when the market's not in the evenings to activate nighttime activity. The Fun Things to Do After Dark campaign, which I believe is something that you're looking at funding, which is awesome. Again, the Clarendon and Coventry Streets need to leverage off the Grand Prix. We actually are meeting with the Grand Prix committee next week, and also with a Porsche Car Australia liaison. We want to make the City of Port Phillip the Porsche Centre, just like Carlton has Ferraris. And just so you all know, within, I think, 3 years, Porsche is actually going to be a participant in the actual Grand Prix as opposed to being just another event on the program. So it would be great for the City of Port Phillip to be known and associated with that part of the Grand Prix. The last bit is which we think is very important for South Melbourne are the heritage verandas. They are verandas which are an iconic part of our history, and it's important that we conserve them because they are part of a significant part of our history. An obligation for a visual history of our street. It's not just for the specific property owners. We don't want to lose those verandas, and we'd like to see some sort of program to assist us in preserving them. So again, our high streets are the key faces to our community, and we are seeking your support and some additional funding, please, to help us with these strategies. Again, we need a coordinator, we need some marketing, and we need some people to be able to help us with these events. We've got lots of plans, lots of enthusiasm. As I said, 14 committee members, and we're ready to, move forward. Right. We just need some support, please.
And thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for the service to those 2 fine committees you're providing. We appreciate it. I call upon Luke Harris, also from the Clarendon and Coventry Streets Business Association. Luke, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. So myself, I am a committee member for the Clarendon and Coventry Street Business Association, of which...
Luke, just get you to state your name and your suburb would be fantastic, and then please feel free to start.
South Melbourne from a business association perspective. So for us, we, the Clarendon and Coventry Street, serve as both a convenience hub for residents as well as a specialist destination attracting visitors from a wide catchment area. We've had some marked achievements since the establishment of the association, as Anne has highlighted previously, but we now need to continue the success and request additional funding and support from the City of Port Phillip to address our formulated strategies and vision for South Melbourne. Our vision is to develop Clarendon and Coventry Streets as the preeminent shopping and business hubs in the City of Port Phillip and as one of the significant traditional activity centres in Melbourne. The vision envisages that a street that has a distinctive sense of identity, maintains the heritage feel, are diverse, friendly, inclusive and relaxed to work in, shop and visit, have an active street life with more people staying longer, have interesting boutique-style shops, continue to have a strong range of professional and business services that choose to operate and do business. Our strategies for Experience South Melbourne encompass the following components. physical improvements, including street beautification, decorations and activations, stakeholder engagement with the likes of Victoria Police, Department of Transport, Council and other statutory bodies that operate within the area, marketing and promotion, including developing of our website, continuing our social media presence, greater brand awareness and a development of a marketing plan to incorporate promotions, events and activations to support our businesses, the attraction of business investment by facilitating business networking, cross-business marketing, developing a desired business list to encourage new businesses to fill vacant premises and work with landlords, real estate agents and the likes of Invest Victoria to attract new businesses to the area. For us, it's also about financial strategy. Council and government grants will predominantly fund the Clarendon and Coventry Street Traders Association, as well as investigating for us the viability of a self-funded program of membership fees and contributions. We are establishing relationships with key stakeholders, as Anne alluded to previously, with the likes of the South Melbourne Market and the Australian Grand Prix Corporation, and continue to discuss future opportunities and partnership opportunities. Funding received thus far has enabled the basic foundations of the association, and to be able to progress and develop, we do request $100,000 in funding from the City for the next financial year for a marketing and communication activation program to directly support the implementation and strategies identified in our business plan. For us, we look forward to continuing to work with Council on the rejuvenation and post-COVID recovery of the South Melbourne economy by working collaboratively to leverage the effort, hard work and great ideas of the entire Council team. Thank you.
No, thanks, Luke, and thanks for your service to that committee also. John Spearings is not joining us tonight from Progressive Port Phillip, and that's to be read out, which I'll do quickly. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about the draft budget. I only have time to address two aspects of our submission from Progressive Port Phillip, so I urge you to read it in full to get our complete analysis. Firstly, rating strategy. Increased rates to the 1.75% rates cap is justified given the current rates of inflation, rising in costs in terms of materials and operations, and counting the need to renew the municipality's assets. We note the measures to provide rate relief for those in need are welcomed by Council's leadership in this regard. Melbourne, Stonington, Yarra and Bayside councils are all increasing their rates by the 1.75% cap, as they recognise that vital community services would be cut without an increase. Without a lift in the cap, community services would be deeply affected, with up to $3.8 million less in council reserves and a compounding impact on council's capacity to deliver high-quality services in future years. We support the move from the MAV to we support the move from MAV to CIV on the basis for setting rates, and welcome greater transparency around cost of waste and recycling services. These steps bring Port Phillip in line with most other metropolitan and local governments. However, the proposed council rating strategy is regressive. For all residential properties valued at $600,000 or less, the combined rates and waste charge will be higher than it was last year. I now call upon Gillian Upton. Hi, Gillian.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Just get you to state your name and your suburb, and your 2 minutes starts when you do.
Thank you. Gillian Upton in Ripponlea. Tonight I'm calling for hopefully immediate action on two items to address the seemingly eternal inequity and disadvantage experienced by the residents of Balaclava and East St Kilda. I'll be talking about the Green Line, and particularly that part of the Green Line from Nightingale Street to Grosvenor Street. And thank you for putting it in the budget, but I'd like to point out that we're ready to go. The planting of the railway line 30 years ago has created this terrific base for some beautiful Indigenous bush with all that offers for biodiversity, habitat, education and well-being. We are very close to creating something very special and unique here. A lot of the groundwork is done. We can make a walkway that becomes a place where people can sit and gather. Children can have a bit of an explore and look at wildflowers. We can actually make it a new public space, which of course we're sorely missing in our neck of the woods. We can expand its purpose. Now we, meaning a group of interested locals, already have a small grant from the St Kilda Gardening Club. willing volunteers, great ideas, and yet we're missing the third planting season as we speak. So I just want to know, why is this being pushed back another 2 years? Why aren't negotiations with Metro and VicTrack underway now so that this project can actually happen? Why the delay in even starting? I think the council would want to get a small-scale achievable run on the board, one that so easily offers, such sustainable rewards for local residents. This is low-hanging fruit, and delay just looks like entropy to me. I'm sorry. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is from the life-enhancing to potentially life-taking, there is an urgent need for a pedestrian crossing in Nightingale Street on the west side of the railway bridge as part of Railway Walk and the proposed Green Line. This is a very busy, highly utilised walkway connecting with the station. We first asked for and were promised a pedestrian crossing here in 2006. This morning, talking to my neighbour Stromer Morrison in Nightingale Street, nearby a truck idled, double parked, next to the railway bridge, obscuring the view of the road and the walkway and adding to the local noise. A man and a small child stepped in onto the road, out of the walkway onto the road and out from behind the truck, and both had to jump in the air out of the way as a motorbike came weaving through them from the other way.
Thanks, Gillian. Get you to come to the end if you could, please.
Yeah, okay, I've just another minute. Another near miss on a crossing that is unmarked, unsafe and unprotected. Now, Canal Ward councillors have received a petition from Stromer and other residents in Nightingale Street that outlines the 16 years of delay in implementing it. I recommend that those councillors circulate it to all the councillors and the relevant officers. And I want it on the record and publicly stated, acknowledged and recorded that the council is aware of this dangerous, unprotected road crossing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian. I call upon...
Thank you.
No problems at all. Coralie Ling.
Hello, I'm Coralie Ling from St Kilda. I'm a member of the OPAC Older Persons Advisory Committee, and we want to especially commend the Council on working on a positive ageing policy. It's in process. We look forward to its completion and to its adoption. And we want to say how important the aged care services are that are provided by the City of Port Phillip so that we can do what is one of our top priorities, have older people be able to stay in their homes as long as possible. And it's really important that these aged care services that already exist continue their high quality and they're local. And we recommend that the council become an aged care provider according to the new federal government funding. Another top priority that we have is sustainability and climate change, as through the climate emergency declaration declared by this council. And we want to do this especially, of course, because older people suffer very much from heat extremes or cold extremes, and also are very concerned about flooding. So these are our top two of our top important things that we hope that you will continue to support in the budget. We know you do already. We want you to do it even more so. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your service on that committee also. I call upon Ian McDonald, also of the Older Persons Advisory Council.
Good evening. My name is Ian McDonald. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm a resident of Kilda and a member of OPAC. I speak for the item of Council Public Policy as outlined in the draft council budget. Myself and OPAC supports the plan, specifically Volume 1,
Ian,
page 52. Yep.
And just get you to talk a bit more closely your microphone a bit more directly.
Is that better?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try that. We'll do our best. Thank you very much, Ian. Go ahead.
Myself and OPAC supports the plan, specifically Volume 1, page 52, that reads an ongoing program of upgrades to foreshore infrastructure, marine assets, and public roads to maintain, improve and expand these important community assets. Off the headset might be easier. I speak to two of these items addressed here, namely expansion of these community assets and maintaining the facility to preserve the condition of said facilities. We make three requests. rethinking cleaning efforts to meet community expectations, provide more appropriate allocation of public toilets to address gender inequality, and improve the assets by making their surrounds safe. To start, a thank you for Council's decision to provide soap in these facilities. The importance of washing hands has long been associated with appropriate hygiene practice and health of all communities. It is now made all the more important with the ongoing COVID pandemic. Managing ageing facilities is no doubt challenging as it is addressing a toilet plan that is now 9 years old. In this report, cleaning cost $183,000 in 2013. No doubt it would exceed this amount now. It's understood budgets could be dictated to by change and money doesn't buy what it used to. Unfortunately, no change can result in an unpleasant and lasting impression on users of these facilities. Even though they may have been recently cleaned, they fail to give off that impression. In regards to expansion, Council would take heed of the gender equality aspect of existing toilet facilities, noting the ratio of 3 to 2 is no longer adequate for the number of females in the public space today. Victorian era is long gone. Women are outdoors, travel and they work. Tourism brings visitors with children. As well, toilet visits are generally in the female domain with small children when small children aren't concerned. With some redesign, it could be cheaper and faster to repurpose existing facilities, as stated later. Council appears to be undertaking works to upgrade facilities, thereby ensuring these spaces are welcome and safe. As determined in Toilet Plan 2013-2023, page 30, the plan states facilities should be upgraded wherever possible in order to meet crime prevention through environmental design principles and Disability Discrimination Act compliance, and could include the addition of extra pans and or the redesign of a facility to include unisex or ambulant accessible toilets to better meet the needs of the community. Noted in the plan, the slopes are not CPTED compliant and are a known location for inappropriate activity. However, minor works are being undertaken at the slopes at the moment. So there's three clear requests: rethink cleaning efforts to meet community expectations, provide more appropriate allocation of public toilets to address gender inequality, and 3, make the toilets and the surrounds safe. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for coming this evening, and thank you also for your service to the Council. I call upon Rosemary Rule, also of the Older Persons Advisory Council.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm Rosemary Rule from Port Melbourne, speaking also on behalf of OPAC, and I'm particularly talking about communications and engagement items, specifically regarding the Council's stated objectives, quote, informing the community about Council and facilitating opportunities to advise its members about Council projects, initiatives, policies and strategies. So OPAC proposes 1, improving communications from Council for older persons who do not expect or assume competency with digital literacy and technology by offering face-to-face service deliveries to ensure the diversity of the community's experience is represented in decision-making. 2, better communication targeting older residents about policies, trials and messaging on the Council website. For example, this would have really helped an elderly overseas-born neighbour who is fluent in English but can't read it, so she did not know about the proposed guidelines for street gardens and was distressed to find out from another neighbour she may have to pull up her plants outside her house. She couldn't read the information. 3, expanding library resources as hubs offering digital literacy programs and IT support. 4, supporting the Linking Neighbours Leadership Group to deliver community forums in town halls and invite Council officers to come in and discuss proposed strategies, policy updates, changes, and seek in-person feedback from older persons. And 5, reinstating Diversity magazine to make it accessible to all older residents. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Rosemary, thank you, and thank you for your service to the Council also. I call upon Wendy Pridle.
No, she's not here.
Oh. So who?
She had to go.
Did she? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. I think that was. Do we have a statement or anything from Wendy? Never a dull moment here at Council. I call upon Kat Matheson. Kat, are you with us?
Hi there, it's Kat Matheson.
Forgive me for my pathetic pronunciation of your surname.
Tricky surname.
Just get you to pronounce it correctly and then state your suburb.
So Kat Matheson, Port Melbourne.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I am Deputy Chair of the Prosperous Port Phillip Business Advisory Group, also known as BAG, and Michael spoke before me. I'm also the Deputy Chair of the State Advisory Committee for the Accommodation Association. The BAG comprises business owners from a variety of industries and across the municipality. We provide feedback to council about the needs and experience of business, and we continue to advocate for economic activation, not only for the upcoming financial year, but work together collaboratively on a plan for the next 5 years. It is important to mention that commercial and industrial ratepayers contribute approximately 18% of all council rates. Businesses help create vibrancy and they benefit the whole community, as well as boosting the financial coffers. In reviewing the draft budget, the BAG welcomes council funding for activation and marketing and a target to increase spend on local high streets. Many of these excellent initiatives will encourage people living in the city of Port Phillip to leave their homes and support local businesses, as well as attract visitors from Greater Melbourne, regional Victoria and interstate, and maybe one day international. The BAG welcomes council commitment to an ongoing tourism campaign, especially following the successful Come South of the River campaign. Hospitality and tourism are major economic drivers for both Victoria and the city of Port Phillip, and the accommodation and food services industry is worth supporting. In the city of Port Phillip alone, it accounted for approximately 7% of jobs. The BAG has provided feedback to council regarding a significant drop in visitation to St Kilda and issues with antisocial behaviour. Recent council initiatives to support events and revitalise the area have received enthusiastic feedback from local businesses, and we thank you very much for that, and there is still more to do. The BAG is also keen to leverage the cruise ship market that comes into Station Pier and attract passengers to Bay Street, Port Melbourne and beyond. So thank you for your time this evening, and we look forward to continuing to work together.
Thank you for your service to that council, and we greatly appreciate it. I call upon Justin Halliday. Justin, welcome. Might come back to Justin.
Am I here? Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Am I here?
Absolutely, you are. Welcome. Just get you to restate your name and your suburb. Justin, go ahead.
Apologies. Justin Halliday, St Kilda East. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to speak tonight. On December 8th, 2011, just remembering what year it is, Council unanimously adopted the public space strategy with the following recommendation, which I'll read out here. The implementation of the Places for People Public Space Strategy 2022 to 2032 will focus on addressing gaps in the public space network, particularly in the Balaclava, St Kilda East and South Melbourne neighbourhoods, by trialling temporary new public space, expanding existing public spaces and exploring opportunities to acquire land and closed roads to deliver permanent new public space. And at the time, council officers committed to move ahead quickly with our strategy around land acquisition and discontinuances, and I also quote, looking to get started around March. They also stated that, and I quote here, we will be looking at opportunities now that we have clear direction about where to buy and the scope and funding we have available. We won't be delaying that. However, following that resolution, the draft budget proposes only 4 small temporary public spaces over the next 4 years in St Kilda East and Balaclava. This doesn't make up for decades of neglect for public open space in these areas, which have less than 5% open space compared to 20% for other areas of the city of Port Phillip. Furthermore, while there is budget set aside for land acquisition, Council's property and sustainability teams are woefully understaffed. These teams cannot effectively deliver on Council's direction without staff, and they don't have the capacity to advocate for state government funding, such as for projects like the Green Line Linear Park, or for funding for land acquisitions. Once again, I ask Council to properly fund public open space in St Kilda East, Balaclava and South Melbourne to make up for decades of neglect and underinvestment, and also to properly staff the teams responsible for implementation of the public space strategy and parallel advocacy efforts. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors.
Thanks for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. Justin, I call upon Bill O'Loughlin. Bill?
Mayor, I'm Bill O'Loughlin from St Kilda East, and I'd like to discuss this evening the Green Line and also the Greening Port Phillip strategy.
Welcome.
Thank you. The Green Line has developed substantially recently. It now runs along the Sandringham train line from the banks of the Yarra down to Glenara Station. It's been mentioned on a number of Facebook neighbourhood groups within the city of Port Phillip that it runs through, and has had a very enthusiastic response. There's been engagement with Stonington and Glenara councils because the line also travels through them, and that's involved discussions with community groups, councillors and council staff, and again it's been well received. There have been meetings held with the state MPs for Veranda and Caulfield. We note that Albert Park electorate doesn't have the Green Line running through it, and meetings have also been held with some upper house members, and again the response from all of them has been very supportive. Overall, though, the Green Line is going to also require support from the state government, and PCAN notes the coming state election. PCAN suggests that a strong commitment from council for the Green Line would strengthen the likelihood of support from the state government and for following on funding. And furthermore, there's a significant allocation in the council budget 2023-24 for the Green Line, and PCAN suggests that bringing this forward to the next financial year would be a good demonstration of council support in the case it mounts with the state government. Secondly, for the Greening Port Phillip strategy, this is a particular area in which PCAN has developed expertise and has advocated over recent years. Our submission to council raises a number of concerns and proposals about the strategy, but tonight at PCAN particularly would like to emphasise that council prioritise those precincts with the lowest levels of greening and the highest levels of urban heat island impact. Further, noting that the strategy is in the process of being developed, PCAN would like to request that council ensures that community input into its procedures and deliberations will occur. And finally, PCAN notes that this work with greening, open space and the Green Line will require council staff to support and implement it, and it requests council to ensure that adequate allocation of staffing is provided to support these things. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Bill. I now call upon Susan Higgins from the St Kilda Primary School. Susan.
Oh, we're on.
You're on. Welcome.
Oh, good Lordy Lord, thank you so much. Thank you very much to our lovely Mayor and councillors at St Kilda Primary School here. Peter Wetzel is our school council president and Sue Higgins is the principal, and we are thrilled to be able to speak with you this evening. Okay.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
So we're putting forward in relation to the closing of Dickens Street.
Sue, just get you to speak. Hey, Sue.
And we'd like to be able to use it for a green space for our school moving forward. It's an underutilised piece of land, and we believe from experience both the City of Phillip and Council have turned Higgins Street into a community play area, and the attendance and the excitement of being able to play in that street has been extraordinary. Our fundings. What we are seeking from the City of Port Phillip is $150,000. We have also been promised by Josh Burns a pledge for $50,000 if they were successful in the latest election, which they were. And we would like to transform part of Higgins Street into a half basketball court and green up that area to make it a very welcoming and active environment for the wider community. And part of the proposal is that we leave 30 metres at one end of that street so we can still have it as a cul-de-sac and a turning circle for cars. We'll be putting greenery along the fence line to make it accessible and ready for all the way.
There's already some seating in place, but we advocated filling the breather, make it more accessible for people to just come and sit and observe and play. We think it's an outstanding proposal.
Great. Thank you for joining us this evening. We very much appreciate it. I now call upon Jack Halliday.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, Jack.
Jack Halliday from Balaclava. Mayor, councillors and officers, I wish to focus on open space issues. PCAN has made many representations to council over the last 18 months, with an emphasis on the densest part of the densest municipality in Australia, St Kilda East and Balaclava. They have the highest number of residents living in high-density housing, the highest number of renters and the lowest amount of public space in Port Phillip. We're aware that a petition for the purchase of a property in Duke Street is being presented tomorrow night with 180 signatures. We see this as a strategic opportunity to be acquired ahead of the library redevelopment and its incorporation into the creation of a community hub linking the library into an attractive green civic precinct. Even if both Packington Street and Duke Street became green public space, it will still not remotely compensate for the current inequity and open space between this area and the city's other neighbourhoods. If Duke Street becomes apartments, it adds to density and the opportunity of a green civic precinct around the library is lost. But if both Duke Street and eventually Packington Street also became green open space, we believe that the extended area would shift the whole dynamic of that locality. We think that council could usefully follow Stonington's example and provide annual funding for the acquisition of new open space. It's been doing that since 2012 and the strategy has been very effective. Council's alternative of developing a land acquisition strategy by 2025 could delay any purchase opportunities which may arise. It seems to be happening with Duke Street. As we talk to council, we're told that staff shortages are working against a more proactive capacity in council to identify suitable new open space. We raise this issue for councillors' consideration because this may be a factor affecting land acquisition. We commend council for adopting the rate cap. It's essential that council is able to maintain its current level of community services. Without the rate cap, council would be obliged to cut nearly $4 million from the existing level of service provision, and that impact could most affect those in greatest need of council services. And last of all, of the 252 community submissions to this budget, 132 of them, or 52%, relate to climate or environmental issues, highlighting our community's concern and wish for strong action by the council on climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I now call upon Jan Kozar.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Just get you to restate your name and your suburb, please, Jan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, councillors and officers. My name is Jan Kozar, a long-term resident in Middle Park. I'm a member of the Board of Management of the Eco Centre and their representative on the Port Phillip Emergency Climate Action Network, better known as PCAN. I'd like to make 3 points in relation to PCAN's written submission, specifically on the Climate Emergency Action Plan and the importance of community engagement. Point one, in 2022-23, the Council will develop our much anticipated Climate Emergency Action Plan. This plan needs to be strong and broadly focused, reflecting the needs of our community. We've been told that 3 options will be prepared, each with different reach and expenditure. We urge that a weak or light touch Climate Emergency Action Plan not be considered. PCAN recommends a strong and comprehensive Climate Emergency Action Plan to address the critical global warming issues we face. We also recommend that Council and Council officers actually engage with PCAN as the municipality's environmental emergency network throughout the development of the plan, as we have a range of knowledge and expertise we can and would like to contribute. Point 2, as we know, community engagement is now a council requirement as per local government laws, and you as councillors know how important it is to communicate with the community you represent. It is anticipated that the Climate Emergency Action Plan will be completed and ready for implementation sometime in the first half of next year. To ensure the plan is effectively implemented, it is vital to have in place a mechanism that has representation from councillors, council officers and the community. We recommend Council establish a Climate Emergency Community Reference Committee, long title, to oversee the implementation of the action plan. Point number 3, as you are aware, environmental issues are uppermost in the minds of residents in the City of Port Phillip, as illustrated by the fact that 52% of the budget submissions you received, a total of 252, related to the environment. There is obviously keen community interest in what the Council is doing in relation to environmental and sustainability initiatives, and the Emergency Action Plan will form an important part of this work. Again, we PCAN recommend that Council include new approaches to community education and engagement in the proposed Climate Emergency Action Plan.
Thanks, Jan. Get you to come to the end if I could, please. That was the end. Thank you, Jan, for joining us. That was the final person to join us virtually. There's no one to loop back to or anything, is there? Missed anyone? No? Now, I've read Helen's statement out whilst you're out of the room, so there's one less you have to do. I now call upon Gail Hastings and ask our Head of Governance to read out Gail's statement, please.
Certainly, through you. Mayor, this statement is in support of PCAN's submission for local residents, industries and businesses to reduce their emissions. 54% of residents in McNamara are renters. This is nearly double the rental rate for Victoria, well over the national average. While homeowners need only organise themselves to make the necessary changes to combat the climate crisis, more than 54% of us in Port Phillip rely on landlords and owners' corporations to do the right thing. Council, therefore, has a greater responsibility than the rest of Victoria and the nation to implement effective procedures by which landlords and owners' corporations are explicitly encouraged to reduce emissions. The budget should not be reduced in this area but increased. The 38% reduction to sustainability expenditure per PCAN's analysis is financially irresponsible in light of the planning and preparation we need if Port Phillip is to meet any type of reduction in its emissions to survive the climate challenges ahead with the least trauma possible for its residents.
I call upon Peter Holland.
Through you, Mayor, the submission reads, the Port Phillip Bicycle Users Group promotes cycling in our local community. In its integrated transport strategy, Council planned a strategic network of safe separated bike lanes to be built over a decade. However, Council is significantly behind schedule. We support the funding allocated for designing the Inkerman Street Bike Corridor and the Park Street Streetscape Improvement Project. We request the abandonment of the shimmy strategy and reorientation towards protected bike lanes. In our written submission, we have identified other immediate, effective and low-cost interventions to enable safer cycle commuting in Port Phillip.
I call upon Tom Ashton.
Through you, Mayor, the submission reads, would Council consider organising and facilitating a Clean Up the City of Port Phillip Day, 1 or 2 per year? The Victorian community requires leadership around such issues as the dropping of rubbish and rubbish removal from our streets, beaches, car parks and parks. Ongoing evidence of our entire population is needed. The volume of dumped rubbish and the prevalence of graffiti is unacceptable. Late last year, students marched in protest over climate change. Council could work through schools to get on board those students who are so passionate about our planet. Clean Up Australia Day initially enjoyed widespread advertising. Clean Up the City of Port Phillip Day will need the same widespread advertising, and being a city initiative, the momentum is more likely to be maintained if we work at it. I hope that Council will see this suggestion as being worthy of serious consideration.
I call upon Livia Bonzazi.
Through you, Mayor, and the submission has 6 points in it which read, 1, can you please point me to where I can see the service levels for key community assets, and can you confirm the community was engaged in setting such levels, fully informed as to the costs and benefits and trade-offs? Point 2, can you please provide the list of all targets and current performance against the stated levels of service for the entire portfolio of assets? If this is too onerous, then for the following asset classes: footpaths, trees, parks and gardens, community buildings, public toilets and drains. 3, page 16 shows the performance building portfolio. The sustainability score measures environmental sustainability. Does this mean you calculate the carbon footprint of the life cycle of our assets? If not, should this not be one key metric, and what is measured instead? Point 4, page 16 shows the performance building portfolio. Please send the individual capacity score, as in utilisation percentage of all community buildings and the public toilets that underpins this performance metric. Point 5, can you please advise what percentage of council's maintenance is reactive versus proactive in both number of service jobs and cost? Point 6, this document seems to conclude that our assets are in fair shape and are overall viable long-term financially. Is there any plan to rationalise assets, sell off assets, and if so, are these decisions driven by the community-led service level expectations or driven by fiscal imperatives?
I call upon Delilah Bradshaw.
Through you, Mayor. Delia Bradshaw, and the submission reads, I call on Council to properly fund sustainability programs in the face of coming climate challenges, fund and implement a comprehensive climate emergency action plan, increase targets for tree canopy cover across the city of Port Phillip, ensure fair and equitable access to parks and recreation spaces across the city, especially in underserved areas, expand its contribution to the development of the Green Line, which will improve local amenity, community safety and incorporate new plantings to increase tree canopy, vegetation and biodiversity.
I call upon David Blakely, Fitzroy Street Business Association.
Through you, Mayor. The submission reads, the Association supports the funding of Renew Fitzroy Street for another year under the current 50-50 arrangement between Council and ourselves. We have seen benefit to the program, which through activation of empty shops, a reduction of social issues, a visually more activated streetscape, a strengthening of the daytime trade and a more lived-in feel for the street. Neighbouring businesses have commented on benefits of the program to their own. One more year shall give time for the market to take over from this worthwhile program.
Councillor, is there any clarifying questions of the officers? Okay, we're moving a motion in relation to report 3.1. Bond to move. Pearl the second. Councillor Bond, would you like to speak to the motion? I don't wish to speak. Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. There being no further items, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.